At She Can, we tell women's stories. We show how women got to where they are today, to be role models for others. And I'm really excited to welcome Natalie Schmitt today. Natalie, welcome to She Can. You're a conservation geneticist and documentary presenter and filmmaker with a deep passion and long history of protecting biodiversity using Western science, but you're also passionate about indigenous knowledge and public education and community empowerment. You're a part of the Explorer Club 50, People Changing the World. You're a TEDx speaker and an ambassador to the Earth Foundation. You also develop a portable leading edge technology to detect DNA from biological samples in real time at low cost. Now, that's a mouthful. Natalie, tell us a bit more about yourself and in your own words, what you do.
Gosh, Stephanie, firstly, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. It's such an honor to be able to speak to women around the world because I think we all need to inspire and learn from each other and give each other a boost. So, to describe myself, I'm a conservation geneticist and I'm a filmmaker and presenter. I'm CEO and founder of a company, WildTech DNA, and over the past 6 or 7 years, I can't remember how long it's been now, we've been working to develop a DNA, a portable, rapid, affordable DNA technology for the detection of wildlife from small samples like fecal material and skin samples. And it was my hope, it's always been my hope and inspiration that we can use this technology to enable more of the world to participate in conservation monitoring. But on top of that, I work with an NGO in the US and Nepal around snow leopard community conservation. And so these are indigenous communities in Nepal who live alongside snow leopards. We are working with them to incorporate their knowledge about snow leopards to help empower them as well as protect snow leopards at the same time. I'm a filmmaker as well. I'm deeply passionate and becoming more and more interested in how art can be used to inspire people, but also break the language barrier. So we're developing an art project at the moment with these communities in Nepal to help understand those communities more and help those communities also understand themselves. And we can use the results of that in our conservation initiatives. But yeah, I'm also working on a film about the climate and extinction crisis and how we can work together as well as individually to address these enormous global issues that we feel very disempowered to address.
Yeah, I always feel that it's so much and so big that young people especially give up at the mere thought of it. So, Natalie, what would you tell the younger generation now from all this wealth of knowledge that you've amassed over the last decades and doing all this important work on endangered species and the leopards and the whales and all the different all the biodiversity that you've studied, all the science that you apply? What would you tell them?
Tell young people, I would tell young people to firstly never give up hope because hope is what keeps us alive.
Mm,
And there is so much to be hopeful for. We are a species that has survived so much. We're deeply intelligent and resilient, and we can find solutions to this. But one thing I tell young people and everyone actually, in terms of what can you do to help address these enormous global problems that we have, I say go and fall in love with nature again.
mm,
Go and reconnect. And it's because it's becoming increasingly more and more difficult for us to connect to nature. We're becoming increasingly isolated from it. But even just spending time with a plant in your house or your pet or there are so many ways that we can reconnect, because it's through that connection that we are inspired to want to protect, want to take action.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that for sure.
I think you said that so beautifully, Natalie, and sorry for putting you in the spotlight immediately. Usually we talk about the journey and how you got there, but this was coming up. So tell us a little bit more about your journey, Natalie. How did you realize this is something I want to be a part of? I want to be a part of solutions.
Gosh, well, I guess it just all started with having that love for nature. I mean, I didn't actually know what I wanted to be when I grew up, apart from the fact I wanted to do something that could help nature in some way. And I've gone from, I went to university, I studied zoology and botany. I became interested in animal behavior. I worked with marsupials for a while. And then I became really interested in in the use of genetic tools that can help us learn more about rare and elusive species. And that's when I conducted my PhD on humpback whales with the Australian Antarctic Division, and then went on to study Antarctic blue whales. But there was something missing. There was something kind of nagging at me while I was studying whales. And I think I became quite disheartened by the fact that politics plays such a role in conservation often. And often governments want to be seen to be doing good conservation work, but it's really just a political ploy. And whale research seems to attract a lot of that. And so I became increasingly interested in working with people. And I've spent a lot of time in Nepal. I fell in love with the people of Nepal. And I actually went out with a local group who studies snow leopards. We went out and visited some of the communities that live alongside snow leopards. And I realized that, yes, science is important, but it's really everyday people that hold the solution to our big environmental problems. It's everyday people that hold that key. And so I became really inspired to work with people first and foremost, and science kind of took a bit of a back burner. But at the same time, I literally stumbled upon a scientific paper that had been written by a biomedical lab here in Canada, and they developed this really cool little biosensor for the detection of bacteria in food and water samples. And I had this incredible eureka moment where I thought, if we could adapt this to wildlife detection, it could have huge impacts on conservation. And I just had this fire in my belly. Like, it was the first time in my life that I'd had this real fire. And I knew at that moment that I had to give up what I was doing and pursue this. And so I contacted this lab, and they're a lab that work on human health. I mean, I thought the chances of them saying, yeah, let's do this, seem pretty small. But the professor said, you know what? Yeah, let's do this. If you can find a little bit of funding, come to Canada and we'll see if we can make this work. And so I don't know how I did it, but I just let everything go, including a relationship back home, to move to the other side of the world, from Australia to Canada, on very little money. And I've spent the past 6 years developing this and growing our team and attracting funding and forming a company around it. It's growing slowly, and there's still lots of hurdles ahead, but my gosh, has it been an interesting journey. It's like so many things, so many other things besides the technology have kind of come into my orbit as a result of taking that leap, you know?
Yeah. Which I love, Natalie. God, you said so many important things. So what would you say is your main motivator now?
My main motivator has always been the same. My main motivator has just always been this love for nature. And actually, whether anyone's religious in our audience or not, I remember saying this prayer many years ago, and it was simply, show me how I could be of best use to the world.
Mm.
And really, that has always been my motivator. I don't care what it is that I do. If I feel like I'm being useful and I love what I do, then really that's the most important thing.
I it couldn't resonate more. It's absolutely my motivator as well. So, Natalie, what top qualities do you think you have or learned that serve you so well now? You obviously have studied this extensively. You've done a lot of research, a lot of around science. What are your qualities?
Well, Stephanie, I think it's taken a long time for me to see my qualities because I think when I first started this journey, in the early days of science as well, and I think a lot of women especially suffer from this, and that's imposter syndrome,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But I think when you let go of those thoughts in your mind that really stop you from really taking these leaps and just kind of be open to whatever happens, you start to see opportunities really clearly. And I think that's what I've become really good at. I see opportunities as they present themselves.
Mm.
I think also because I'm living more in my heart, I I I'm pretty good at being able to inspire others because I'm again not in my head, not doubting myself. I'm just, focus on speaking about my passion. And I think I'm particularly good at bringing people together because we can't do these things alone. We need the right people on board to solve some of these big problems in the world. So I think I'm good at networking and bringing people together to make things happen.
You've mentioned it, Natalie. You live more by the heart. So give us some top tips for our listeners on how can one set up and lead a life more from the heart, and what does that mean?
It's something that I've realized actually when I first made that leap of faith and came to Canada to pursue this. And you mentioned Anna, I gave a TED talk a while ago, and one of the quotes I used in that talk was a quote that simply says, if we let go of who we think we are, then we become what we might be. And this is around not listening to the doubts that you have in your mind and not grasping so tightly to a particular outcome on your path. Like I could so easily have said, the outcome that I want is I want to develop this technology and it must happen like this and it must do this, it must have this impact. But if you become so focused on what your mind wants and you listen to your mind too much, then you miss all these opportunities that arise on that journey. And to me, it's the realization that it's not really the goal that's most important, it's the journey to get there. And if you can live more in your heart, my heart says to me, I love nature and I want to do what I can to protect it, then you'll be open to so many opportunities that could take you on a completely different path
Mm.
into a more amazing path, a more richer path. So it's just working at being able to let go because our minds have so much control over us.
Yeah, Natalie, and we talked about this before, but I'm so thankful that you say that because I feel that we educate our young people, but also ourselves, that everything happens in a linear fashion. You're good at school, you're going to get into the next best school, into the next best university. You always have to know what you want because then you're going to deliver all of this, whatever that is. And that is just not the truth. And I don't think it's the journey of many. So I'm very grateful that you said that. And I think we are on to understanding that that's not the way forward and that we have to pivot and teach our younger generations again about creativity and about the non-linear and following your heart to get to where you're actually really of the best service. And so thank you for showing that, Natalie.
I just wanted to add, Stephanie, that really life is all about slowly getting to understand who we are,
Yeah.
right? And at a young age, we have no idea who we are.
No.
And so how can we expect it to know what we want to do? I'm still realizing who I am. I still don't really know what I want to be when I grow up, but
Same
I'm
for me.
excited to find out.
Yeah, exactly. So, Natalie, what are you most proud of to date?
Oh, that's a difficult question, but I think I am most proud of having the courage to follow my heart. I when I look back at what I've been able to do, which I think it's important for us all to do that, to actually reflect on what we've been able to achieve in life. I think coming here to Canada was it was scary and there were doubts in my mind, but I'm so proud of myself that I did that,
Mm,
and that I think the journey of the heart is most often a difficult one. It's a challenging one, but my gosh, is it rewarding. So yeah, I'm proud of myself for staying with it. It's still very difficult, but I wouldn't have it any other way. There's nothing else I'd rather do in life.
yeah. Natalie, so what are your future plans and goals? What's happening for the next couple of years? I know you're working on another film.
Yes, so yeah, at the moment we're in post-production on a film that we shot in the Galapagos. It's the first time I've directed a film, so yeah, again, this opportunity just came about, and I grasped it with both hands and wholeheartedly. And yes, it's scary, but I'm excited to see where it's going to lead, and what could come out of it. And yeah, I really hope people love it. Um, yeah, with the technology, my goal is to see it being of use to the world. I really want it to be able to get into the hands of everyday people, because the problem is that most of the world, particularly in the developing world, they don't have the laboratory facilities to be able to conduct this conservation genetic monitoring.
Yeah.
And with a device like this, that would just be like a COVID test, everyone could participate, even kids
Mm,
could participate in monitoring wildlife. So that's my real passion. But on top of that, we're trying to, because our technology has human health applications, which is a much larger market, my idea is to create a business model whereby the funding that could come from human health applications could then fund the technology for conservation applications, but also fund, which is my real passion, grassroots projects in conservation.
mm,
So because we are so beholden in conservation by this grant system, like funding
yeah.
is always so scarce that we're constantly applying for these grants that are very little money, and there's lots of
Mm,
competition around it.
yeah.
So I think we've been losing that battle to save biodiversity because we're just so limited to what we
Yeah.
can do.
Yeah.
But if you could come at it from a new business sense,
Mm.
then you could create perpetual funding, which funds projects well into the future. So that's what, yeah, I'm exploring at the moment.
That sounds so exciting, Natalie. Congratulations. I can't wait. Watch the space.
Thank
Natalie,
you.
so who are the people who inspire and motivate you to keep going and to keep reaching and dreaming big?
Oh, the people. I mean, it's easy for me to say big people like Jane Goodall. So, for example, yeah, Jane Goodall, she's an inspiration to so many. She
Yeah.
took that first very brave step as a woman
Mm,
in that day to go to Africa by herself and start this project. And she had her mother's blessing. And so women like her who are so brave and are continually motivated by their love of nature really inspire me. But Stephanie, I honestly think it's everyday people that inspire me.
yeah.
Every day I meet people that really touch my heart, and I think, you know what? Wow, look at how generous that person is. Look at how much they love. Look at what they're doing for nature. I think there's inspirational people all around us, and that's what always gives me hope in the world.
Yeah. Natalie, I can't thank you enough for this really inspiring conversation, and thank you for taking the time to record your story so it can serve others.
Oh, I'm so glad. If I can help inspire in some way, I'm so grateful for the opportunity, Stephanie. Thank you.